You having fun breaking beans?
Yeah.
You are? Thank you for helping me.
You're welcome.
You're so nice. Sweet friends, welcome back to my channel. Welcome if you are new here. My name is Bethany. Here on my channel you can find all things homemaking. Today's video I am just sharing with you some canning and how I am just restocking my pantry and my kitchen with farm fresh items and how I'm preserving things. And so that's what's going to be in today's video. There's going to be quite a bit in today's video, so I hope that you enjoy coming along with me and seeing videos like this. This is something that I want to do more often. I also want to mention that today's video is in collaboration with my sweet friend Tamara from Southern Wife Everyday Life. If you guys have been here for a while, you know that I've collaborated with her before. She's one of my sweetest friends here on YouTube, and I'm just so grateful to know her and grateful for her friendship. So thank you so much, Tamara, for collaborating on today's video. I will leave a link to her channel as well as her collaboration video down in the description box if you would be willing to check that out. If you're coming over here from Tamara's channel, hello and welcome. I am so happy to have you here. I hope that you will hit that red subscribe button and join my YouTube family. Like I mentioned, I share all things homemaking. I share Sunday resets, Tuesday grocery hauls. I always have a Thursday video, but that might look different. I share prepping, canning, gardening, motherhood, day in the life, all the things. So I'm just so happy to have every single one of you here. Let's go ahead and jump on into today's video. So we're gonna make some like 4-ingredient Amish bread. So I'm just going to share with you guys how I make that. I'm using 2.5 cups of water, 2/3 cup of sugar. I will have the recipe linked down below in the description box or typed out. 1.5 tablespoons of active dry yeast, which does equal 2 packets if you buy them in separate packets. And then what I'm going to do is just go ahead and incorporate that all into my mixing bowl that goes in my stand mixer, give that a good whisk, and just get that all combined and set that off to the side. And while I'm letting that proof for about 5 to 10 minutes until it gets fragrant and a little bit puffy, I'm going to go ahead and work on snapping some beans and things like that. For the beans we're going to be canning later. But once this is done and this is ready, you can kind of see the difference here. You want to go ahead and melt 4 tablespoons of butter, or 1/4 cup, and I'm fiddling with my little ramekin here because it was so hot from the melted butter. But I'm going to go ahead and add that into this mixture, and then I'm going to add in 4 cups of flour. That was 2 cups there, and then I will add another 2 cups of flour. Once I get all that added into the bowl, I'll go ahead and put it in my stand mixer and let that get to mixing. You could easily make this in a bread machine if you have a bread machine. I actually do not have a bread machine, so I'm just doing mine in my stand mixer. That's the only way I have done it, but I'm just going to go ahead and put it on the first setting, which is just a low setting, and let that knead together, let it get all mixed in and happy together. And you can see, you know, kind of what it looks like when it starts mixing, and then after it has been mixing for a minute, the consistency that it turns to. Once it's at this consistency, that's when you want to go ahead and start adding more flour into it. You're going to need between a total of 6 and 7 cups. So I'm going to go ahead and add 2 full cups now, which would be 6 cups because I had the 4 in there before. And then I just added 2 more, and I'll let that combine. And once that's all combined, I'll kind of see if it needed more flour, if it was still tacky and sticky. And it was a little bit, so I did end up adding another 1/2 cup to the 6 cups that I had in there. So I did about 6.5 cups of flour. I'm just pulling it out of my container here, my bowl. You can see that it's still a little tacky, but it's not bad at all. So I'm just going to go ahead and flour the top and flour the counter and just kind of roll this out. And once I just sprinkled that little bit of flour on there, it really just firmed right up and was at the right consistency. So I just go ahead and stretch mine out and then I fold it in on itself. I know a lot of people have many different ways to knead their bread, and whatever way works for you will work for this bread. This bread is pretty foolproof, and it's pretty easy to work with. So I just go ahead and fold it in itself and then kind of fold the ends in, and I'll push it back out, do it one more time, and then I will start to knead it into a ball, you know, scooping the undersides and pulling it towards me. You'll be able to see all of that here of what I'm doing, but that's just how I make my bread. I know there's so many bread recipes out there and so many different ways to make bread, but this was actually the first bread recipe I ever made for making homemade bread, and it's just been something that we absolutely loved, and it's something I just keep making. There are some other bread recipes that I do want to try. My friend Tamara, the one that today's video is in collaboration with, she has a bread recipe that I also want to try, so probably the next time I make bread I'm going to try her recipe because it's always looked really delicious, but this is just the one that I went with today. So I'm going to go ahead and get that put back in my bowl, and I actually put it in my bowl and realized I wanted to flour the bottom of my bowl, so I dumped it back out again, sprinkled some flour in the bowl, got that all nice and coated, and then I will put it in there and cover it with a towel, and I'm going to go ahead and let it proof for 1 hour, making sure that it's doubling in size and rising. Are you having fun breaking beans?
Yeah.
You are? Thank you for helping me.
You're welcome.
You're so nice.
Yep. Actually, I
All
did that
these
myself too.
beans to break.
I can help you more. I can help you.
So this is what the bread is looking like. It had proofed once, and I put it, I made a loaf out of it and then made hamburger buns out of it. I'm not sure where that footage went, but I thought I would hit record and I guess I didn't. So I let it proof for the 1 hour, kneaded it again, and then cut it into one loaf of bread and then made the hamburger buns out of it. And then now I just have those rising for another 30 to 45 minutes before they go in the oven. But me and my sweet girl were breaking beans as the bread was getting its first rise, getting all the beans ready to be canned and some to be blanched and froze, and then some kept out for fresh eating. So now that we've got them all broke and ready to go, washed off and everything, I'm going to go ahead and add them to my canning jars. And I'm just doing 5 quart-sized jars because I am freezing some as well. So I'm just going to go ahead and fill up my 5 quart-sized jars with the beans, and once I get those filled up with the beans, I'll go ahead and take about a 1/4 teaspoon of salt and add 1/4 teaspoon of salt to each jar. And then once I have all the salt in there, I will go ahead and just put some boiling water over top of them, wipe the rings of the jar, the rims of the jar, and get them put in the canner. These are really easy, and I know there's many ways to do beans as well. You can pickle them, you can put different seasonings in them, whatever you like. I know some people do salt, some people don't do salt at all, but I do put a little bit of salt in mine, but that's it, and then I pressure can them. So I'm just going to fill these jars up with water and get these going, so that way they can go ahead and get on into the pressure canner. Now that the beans are in the pressure canner, you can see here they're going to get going, so I'm just going to go ahead and put the lid on that and let them come up to pressure, let it vent, and then I will get the weight put on them. But in the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and blanch the rest of the beans that I had, so that way I can get to freezing them. But while those were blanching a little bit, the hamburger buns and the bread was done, so I'm going to go ahead and pull that out of the oven here, get that out so that way it doesn't cook anymore. And I'm just going to take a stick of butter and go ahead and rub a stick of butter all over the top of the bread as well as the buns. It just gives that little buttery coating at the top, and we absolutely love it. This bread smells so good, and it is absolutely the easiest bread I have ever made. And then we really like it. Again, like I said, I want to try some other recipes, but we really do like this one. So it is definitely something that we will keep around, and it only takes the 4 ingredients, which is your water, flour, butter, yeast, and some sugar, and that's it. So I'm sorry, 5 ingredients, but it's really easy. So I'm just gonna go ahead and butter the top of these, and once I'm done doing that, the beans are ready to be strained out. So I'm just gonna go ahead and get those strained out, so that way they can kind of drip dry a little bit, and I can get ready to get these put into some freezer bags and vacuum seal those, so that way they are going to be safe in the freezer for a while and get them preserved. It's one thing I love doing during preservation season, is just preserving all the things, and there's so many ways to preserve. Alrighty, so when I put my green beans in the canner, I let it get up till you can see the steady stream of steam, and once you have that steady stream, you can go ahead and set a timer for 10 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and set the timer for 10 minutes. It's going to vent for that 10 minutes, and then once it is done venting, I will go ahead and put my weight on, and then we'll cook it and process it for the time that it needs to be processed. While the beans are in the canner canning, I'm just going to work on vacuum sealing the rest of the beans and letting the bread cool. Now the weight on my canner is up to a steady jiggle, and that's telling me that it's up to pressure. So once it's up to pressure, I'll go ahead and set my timer for the 25 minutes for the quarts. And then go ahead and cut my bread, and you can just see here how lovely this bread turned out. It turned out so good. It's moist, it's airy, but it's not too airy, and it's not too dense. It is just the perfect combination. It is so lovely, and I cannot wait to just enjoy this loaf of bread. You can see when you squish it, it just pops right back up, and it looks so lovely. But now we got the beans put up in the freezer, 5 quarts of beans for the shelf, as well as our bread and our hamburger buns. Okay, so besides the frozen beans that are in the freezer now, I got a whole loaf of bread ready for the week. I had mentioned in a few videos back that I wanted to not buy bread at the store and wanted to make bread, so I'm really hoping to continue on this trend of getting the bread made and having that for the week. I have a dozen hamburger buns here. Whatever we don't use, I can freeze these and save them for another time and just pull them out when we need. So I have a dozen of those, and then I have the 5 quarts of green beans. These are cooled off now, and every one of them has sealed. You can see on my lid here it says fries, because I did use this lid before for, you know, canning potatoes into fries, and then I just cleaned it off really well, and it was still able to push down in the center, and so I used it again for the green beans, and it is perfectly sealed. You know, I know some people are not keen about reusing lids, but your kitchen, your rules. I do reuse them from time to time. I usually use them for dry goods, but I was kind of experimenting and wanted to try it. So of course I'll keep an eye on these, but I think they'll be fine. But that is everything that I got done today, and it doesn't seem like this would take a lot of time, but it definitely did, because I had to snap all the beans, had to wash them, and then I froze some, and then, you know, making the bread, that's a couple-hour process in between letting it rise and all that stuff. So this is what I got done today. I also had a cucumber from the garden that was ready, so I went ahead and just sliced that up for some fresh eating We love to have cucumbers on the side of dinner or for salads, things like that. So I always like to have cucumber cut up because we'll just put a little bit of salt or seasoned salt or ranch with it, and it's a really yummy snack. So we really enjoy having cucumbers. So I'm just going to go ahead, get those cut up and put into a jar. That way I can throw them in the refrigerator. If you have never stored your fruit or veggies in mason jars, definitely try it because it makes a world of difference, and I've noticed things last so much longer. But another thing I wanted to share with you, I did share this in a video a couple weeks back, but that is homemade Nesquik powder. My kids really love chocolate milk, and I always either get Ovaltine or Nesquik, and I found a recipe to make my own. So you're going to need some sugar, some salt, some cocoa powder, a jar to put it in, and then of course your measuring spoons, measuring cups, and a bowl. So you're going to need 1 1/3 cup of sugar into a bowl, and then you are going to need 2/3 cup of cocoa powder and about a half a teaspoon to a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. You don't need much salt at all, it's just a little bit. So I'm just going to go ahead and sprinkle a little bit in there and just kind of eyeball that to our liking. And then once I get the salt in there, I'm just going to go ahead and whisk this together. You want to make sure that there's no clumps, and that way everything is incorporated and just mixed and nice and happy together. And that way you can kind of see how much the cocoa powder lightens up a little bit with the sugar, making sure that it is just nice and combined. Once you have it all combined, you can just go ahead and store that in whatever container you have. I'm just using a mason jar that I have, but you can store it in any airtight container. But my kids really like this, and I've actually tried it as well, and it is so good. It's really comparable to actual Nesquik. So definitely give this a try if this is something that you're into. We use about a tablespoon per cup, just depending on how chocolatey you like it. I do want to say thank you so much for being here. I hope you enjoyed coming along with me today and seeing today's video. If you do like videos like this, please leave it a big thumbs up. Again, I will leave a link to Tamara's channel and her video down in the description box. If you would go show her some love, tell her I sent you, and say hello. If you're in need of prayer, please leave it down in the comments, send me an email, or message me over on Instagram if you are in need of prayer. I hope you all have a wonderful and blessed day, and I will see you in the next one. Bye, y'all.